So bankruptcies are rising in Donald Trump's America, and I want to go over the details of this and some other things. And let's jump right in. So here's the headline then from the report. Bankruptcies soar as companies grapple with inflation and tariffs, okay? And you're dealing with a couple different things, the taxes you got to pay to the Trumpers and the consumers that are already stretched too thin. Businesses in vulnerable sectors found themselves caught between rising tariffs and beleaguered consumers. And when you look at the chart here, you can see it for yourself. Corporate bankruptcies reached a 15-year high in 2025. So this is through November, 717 bankruptcies, corporate bankruptcies. We don't have the data yet for December. The last time you saw numbers like this would be back in 2010, so right after the great financial crisis. And basically, things don't look good. And this is corporate bankruptcies. Now, Trump always says that, hey, we're all winning. It's a golden age. Maybe for some companies, as smaller ones are going bust, and then you can unfortunately getting more consolidation at the top. That's just sort of how it looks like. Basically, think of it this way. What if everything becomes, Walmart everywhere, no other brands, and we all eat at Taco Bell, that kind of thing? Or I guess theoretically, we're all driving a Tesla, right? This would be the world that Trump wants, to where just a few big companies control everything. You can see more corporate bankruptcies. Here's a quote here. These companies are acutely aware of the affordability crisis confronting the average American. Coming from a professor at Yale School of Management. They are doing their best to offset the cost of tariffs and higher interest rates, but can only do so much. Those with pricing power will pass on the cost over time. Others will fold. So the basic gist of it is, if I sell a product that you absolutely must buy, right? And we'll use the example of insulin. That's an example that people always use, because it doesn't matter if the economy's up, down, or what your economic situation is. You're going to buy that, and so whatever the company decides to charge, you need it. Whereas something like, say, maybe a rocking chair, just for example, in your house, and you don't really need a rocking chair necessarily, and so if the price of that thing goes up, you're just like, I'm just not buying said thing. And so the company who makes the rocking chair, say you need to get wood from Canada or wherever, and you import that that wood, and it's just like too expensive. And so you either absorb the cost of that, or you'll pass that cost to the consumer. But remember, the consumer doesn't want to pay the higher price, because remember, this particular good is not something they absolutely have to have regarding the rocking chair. And also, they could theoretically buy the thing used. There's a big used market for furniture. The thing is, though, is that Fox News is even telling you that prices of this stuff is going up, because some companies are just like, we just can't eat, our margins anymore, and we have to pass the price on to you. And so I showed you guys this in the last video. I'm just showing you again. Prices are going up. Some companies, the math just won't work out. It just, even if you keep, prices low, or if you raise prices, like if you raise prices too much, no one's going to come through the door. So you can't do anything that way. If you keep prices the same, but the import cost, like basically your cost of business is up, then the math doesn't work out for you anymore, and you go bust, right? So they're in a tough spot in this economic environment that Trump has created. Here's some more. This is from a principal at Cornerstone who wrote, the September report says, large companies cited higher inflation, interest rates among the factors that impinged on consumer demand and made it harder to raise capital. Changing federal policies around renewable energy and international trade were also contributors. So, all this Trump policy is hurting business. So one would be, for example, Trump is pissing off our buyers. If you sell, say, soybeans, it was a hot topic. And if China decides, like, you know what, we're just not going to buy your soybeans, that really, really hurts farmers. Or if you get a massive boycott in Canada, right? Or otherwise, it's just like, I'm not buying American products, be it alcohol or any number of things. There's a lot of products out there that, you would trade between Canada and the USA. But basically, Trump is pissing off the buyers. So if there's no buyers, there's no market. You have nothing to sell to. It's really tough. The renewable energy one is an interesting one you have to understand is, say, example of a solar company. I'm trying to explain, like, there's different reasons why companies would go bankrupt. It's all related to Trump, but just understand it's different in different ways. If you had tax incentives before that made it like more easier to do business, right? Easier to import stuff. But then suddenly tax incentives are gone, the import costs rise, then that makes it really tough to do business. And then you also have consumers, say in the residential solar market are like, I just lost my job. There's no way I'm going to put solar panels on my house now, right? So you're losing that as well. And then just you weren't profitable in the beginning because for these kind of businesses, the high startup costs, and you need to be operating for a period of time. You can't just pause your business for a couple of years. And this is where Trump could really do a lot of damage to the economy. And in my opinion, you need small businesses. I know they're talking about corporate ones here, but you need, the best word to say it is like you need a variety of businesses. You don't necessarily just want one or two companies, running and owning the show. That's sort of where we're going here. All these factors, though, contribute to this. Here's another quote. It says, that places a lot of strain on cash flow, especially smaller importers. That's what I was saying, talking about, say, the smaller businesses. You then combine this with reduced federal incentives that have negatively impacted demand, and you have a perfect storm for elevated rates of bankruptcy. This shows you the chart where the various bankruptcies are. Industrial's leading the way, so Trump promised you that you're going to have all your factory jobs back, but yeah, we're getting more bankruptcies in industrials. You got consumer discretionary. I think that would include a lot of things like maybe clothes, jewelry, furniture, those kind of things, like things you don't necessarily need. And I can see here healthcare, consumer staples. Again, these are bankruptcies categories. Information technology, financials, communication services, real estate, materials, utilities, and energy. So a lot of different categories on that. Besson then said today, and I mentioned in my last video, you're all going to get maybe $1,000 to $2,000, refund on your taxes. Maybe you do, but that's not necessarily going to make up for your rising healthcare costs. You lost your job, you lost your business, and this environment, really pissing off trading partners and the tariffs is a real blow for a lot of people, as you guys know. And then you get these like crazy stories in the in the CNBC. This is essentially the business news. And it's not something I don't think I've ever seen data on something like this before. But let me show you. It just says nearly 71% of women would help pay for their engagement ring. They may see a ring as, quote, proof of worthiness and desirability, says experts. I haven't heard of this one, just to be frank. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the guy always has to pay for everything, but just, for many years, it would be the guy who pays for the engagement ring. And then the families do split the cost of the wedding. Maybe one family helps pay for the wedding, the other side of the family helps pay for honeymoon, these kind of things. But in this economic environment, all bets are off. And so this kind of just represents where we're at right now, where just essentially one job doesn't pay enough for anything anymore. So I'll give you some details. It says nearly 71%, 70.6% of women say they're willing to contribute to the cost of the engagement ring. And I'll be curious. I've actually never heard of this to where people are doing it together. I haven't heard of it, but maybe that's a new thing. Almost 19% said they would pay for the full price, the ring in full. 23% said they'd partially pay, and 29% said they would contribute if needed. So, and if you're a dude out there and you want to get married and you're looking at buying a ring, you're like, oh my God, this stuff's expensive. So I don't think guys would necessarily be against this particular thing. I'm just saying I haven't heard of this myself, but and I could hear some arguments that might say this is old fashioned. We don't need to do this anymore. Maybe I'm not. I'm just saying this is what the data says. Here's a headline here. As the cost of living keeps climbing, Americans are, quote, trying to muscle through the affordability crisis. And it gave some really alarming numbers here, and I'll show you. So first, it says American consumers aren't feeling great about the economy or their own financial situation, with the phrase, quote, affordability crisis dominating the headlines. And Trump says a con job, a hoax, etc. I have no idea what any of this stuff is or regular people. But it says the majority, 70% of Americans surveyed in December say the cost of living in their area is not very affordable or not affordable at all. That's quite a lot, right? 7% of Americans in this particular poll saying where they live, cost of living is not very affordable or not affordable at all. And then you also have this other data, which is pretty much matching. Nearly half of Americans say their financial situation is worse than a year ago. And then when you check on what Trump is doing, he's like, I'm going to build a battleship and call it the Trump class battleships. He's so out of touch. And we just looked at yesterday, he was tweeting out that he wants like marble armrests for his chairs, I guess, at the Kennedy Center. And he was also tweeting out, hey guys, I got a new plane. It's like, So ridiculous, this dude. And what's interesting is that our politics are fracturing a bit. As remember, Trump is partnering with basically Elon Musk and all the big tech bros. They're going to build data centers everywhere. And DeSantis, I'll be clear on this, I don't really like DeSantis, but I always, just honest with you, I just show you what they're saying. He's actually coming out against Trump in the data center stuff. So I think this will actually be a dividing wedge going into the next election. Are we going to be, partnering with big tech? Or are we not? So there might be a divide there. Headline then says, we have to reject that with every fiber of our being. That's coming from DeSantis. And he had this whole Bill of Rights thing. I want to read a little bit of this because I think it's actually quite interesting to see the divergence. And I'll be curious if there will be, say, a Democratic side of the, aisle, you could call it, that comes out very strong against AI. Also, there might be a big backlash in this stuff. This is going to be a big topic going into the election cycle, in my opinion. So it says here, this is a quote from DeSantis. I thought it was pretty good. Quote, let's not try to act like some type of fake videos or fake songs are going to deliver us some kind of utopia. That's a good point, right? Unlike many of DeSantis' high-profile fights, his opposition to AI has little to do with culture grievance or woke ideology. So he's not talking about this woke stuff at all. And far more to do with economic disruption, labor displacement, and the scale of the technology itself. And essentially, he's, calling for more regulation on AI. And I think this is actually going to be a really interesting issue going forward as people are essentially, feeling a lot of economic pain. As we showed you, we got bankruptcies. People are saying it's too expensive, right? Not affordable in your area. So that's Donald Trump's America. Bankruptcies are going up. People are saying things are not affordable. They're worried about losing their jobs. And we're having splintering on what we're going to be doing with AI because essentially much of the Trumpy numbers of saying everything's great, et cetera, is really just Elon Musk and his tech bros. They're making money, but not necessarily everyone else. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I do appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video.